Alright, so my review about Tunic. So I'm a bit late to the party because Tunic has been out for a bit more than a couple of years now. This is probably a review for people who are, like me, late to the party. So Tunic, video-wise, in terms of graphics, when you look at it, the first thing that most people are going to think about is this is a Zelda-like. This is Zelda, right? Especially if you've played the most recent Zelda, the remakes of the Game Boy one, Link's Awakening or something like that. If you've played those games and if you've played the previous Zelda, you would feel at home with that. But here's the thing, it is not a Zelda-like, really. So it's actually good to start with the graphics and the visual aspect of the game, because when you look at the game, it starts a lot like Zelda. And when you play it a bit, the gameplay feels more like Dark Souls. But then, the more you play, the more you realize that it has not much in common with Zelda, and the gameplay has much more to do with games such as Souls Light. Anyway, let's keep on talking about the graphics. Visually speaking, it's lovely. It's very cute, it's charming, it's that kind of isometric 3D. You cannot rotate the camera rotates by itself, but it's always like that in diagonal from above. It looks very cute at the same time and a bit generic. That's probably one very personal comment from me. Most people would probably find the game lovely, pretty looking. Me, I have a problem with these. Yes, it does look cute, but at the same time I've got some issues with the polygons and the way the enemies, for instance here the crabs, are modeled. The textures, if you look at the mountain on the left, it almost reminds me of games that you find on tablets, straight out of an engine. I struggle with that, and I know it's very personal. It lacks a bit of personality, which is weird, right? Because when you look at it, you could think it's so personal. On the contrary, look at the map here. I love that. The whole map menu system with which is an actual manual, look awesome. The visuals are great, cute, and at the same time a bit generic. That's a very personal comment. No bug whatsoever, no performance issue. Visually it's just at least an 8 out of 10. It looks really nice. Audio-wise, I'm probably going to say the same thing. The music and sound effects are really cool. It sounds great. However, a lot of it sounds a bit generic, sounds a bit impersonal. There's a lot of music in the game that, for me, didn't fit the atmosphere. For me, this looks like an incredibly fantasy, epic adventure, you know, like Zelda. And yet, the music that I heard all throughout the game reminded me of a more contemplative puzzle game that fades in the background. Very eerie, almost impersonal sometimes. That's why I would not give it a bad rate, you know, for the audio and the music. I would say it's a 7, 8 out of 10. But at the same time, I would not go out of my way to listen to the music. I think it sounds very nice, but nothing that I will remember in a few years. I'm going to insert my disclaimer, or at least one of the disclaimer right here. Tunic, as I said, looks like a Zelda, but is not a Zelda. The reason why is because Tunic is a puzzle game. Cut the review right now if you are a fan of puzzles, you want to go blind into the game, you don't want to be spoiled anything, because I'm going to spoil the game. Not a lot, but I will. I want to talk about the gameplay, and I cannot talk about the gameplay without mentioning the puzzles. Gameplay-wise, Tunic starts exactly like a little Zelda game. You've got your little fox, shield, sword, some hearts. It's exactly Zelda. But you quickly see that this gameplay is not the core of the game. It's almost as if your little character fighting enemies within levels is like an excuse for the real core of the game. It's like the way you interact with the game. So if you've played a game like The Witness, games like Talos Principle or Witness have this in common. They are FPS games, but it is not the real gameplay. The FPS kind of feature is just a way to interact with the real core of the game. That's why in terms of gameplay, I will just say this. Gameplay is a little adventure game, action game, you know, where you see I'm trying to find a way to reach this treasure chest here. That's how you interact with the game. The gameplay is that. It plays very well with the controller. You move your little fox. You cannot move the camera, as I said. You get items and you lock the enemies, you fight them. That's the basic gameplay you will find in Tunic. And you have to realize that since it's inspired by Dark Souls and all these Souls-like games, it's gonna be challenging. Okay, the game is not easy. At the same time, it's not a hardcore or whatever in terms of difficulty, right? But it is not easy, especially if you struggle finding the right way to do things, to fight enemies. You could see a frog enemy right there, or here another frog enemy. I discovered the frog area early on without having what I needed to beat them, and I struggled a lot. For instance, in terms of gameplay, you have a way to level up in the game. You have a way to level up your health, your stamina, and so on, like in a typical Dark Souls game. I didn't know that. I discovered that, I can't remember, 20 hours in or something like that. And it was very, very tough for me because I had to beat the major first boss without knowing that. I had to fight some enemies without knowing that. So that was tough. So gameplay can be quite challenging, especially for that kind of interaction that I mentioned. A little adventure game with fighting the enemies and so on. You see, in a Zelda game, fighting that crow here would be done in 10 seconds. Here it was more challenging. So be prepared. It's not a casual game at all. Content-wise, that is probably the real core of the game. I mentioned earlier that the gameplay was not necessarily the real core of the game. That's because the real core of the game is hidden within the content and behind that gameplay, like that action-adventure game. It's hidden behind that. And now it's the big spoiler. Tunic is a puzzle game, exactly like Fez. So I compared Tunic earlier to games such as Dark Souls and Zelda, and then I started mentioning games like The Witness. Why? Because if you've played a game like Fez, Fez was extremely inspirational for many developers. It was from Phil Fish, who's Canadian, and the developer of this game is Canadian. I think there's some clear inspiration from here, not only in terms of visually speaking, music sounds a bit similar also, and the concept of the game is very similar. Fez was this platformer game, and you rotate the camera a bit like in here actually, and you play with the visual aspects like in The Witness. If you've played The Witness, the puzzles are play on the visual aspects of the thing, finding puzzles within basic stuff. I'm not going to reveal, but if you look, for instance, I'm going to say junk, okay? I'm going to say a lie, so do you get an idea? Do you see what look like little flowers here? They're in a triangular shape. Maybe it could mean something, you know. It's how you have to think in this game. You see all the little dots that look like herb or flowers? Maybe it's a puzzle. Maybe it's a clue for another puzzle. That's what Tunic is about. You evolve in this world, in this fantasy world, but all of this is an excuse to give you puzzles, enigmas, riddles that you have to solve, and there are puzzles within puzzles. And that's probably where Tunic shines the most in its content. Tunic is a huge handcrafted, like a clock made by a craftsman. It's puzzles within puzzles within puzzles, and when you discover some password and some hidden secret language, you access to more puzzles, and all these puzzles that you solved, if you look them up from far away, oh my god, you realize there's a huge puzzle hidden in that. It's exactly what it is about. So if you only come, like I thought I would, for the gameplay, which is little action adventure game, you'll be surprised, potentially disappointed, because the game here is only about puzzles. I would argue that you could play the game not caring about the puzzles, but you would probably be put off if you just want adventure and exploration, because it's not so much about that. It's a lot about puzzles. It's very hard for me to talk about that without spoiling too much. If you look here at the statue, and if you look at the blue pattern on the grass, it could be a secret that tells you how to open a door, and behind that door there's another secret and another puzzle. It's all about that. So if you come here for the puzzles, you'll be pleased, because Tunic is extremely complex. Tunic can be finished with the bad ending, not the real ending, really fast. I would say, I don't know, 10-20 hours. But if you want to explore the game and understand its secrets and its actual meaning, you would need more than that, probably twice more. I spent like 50 hours, but that's because I suck. I did most of the game without hints and without walkthroughs on internet. I was very proud, up to a certain amount. I'm not gonna lie. Tunic uses a secret language. You can see English written here on the manual, but as you can see here, there's secret language within the game. And one of the big features of the game, one of the big puzzles, is to solve that language, decipher it. Everything you can see is cryptic and written in another language, and one of the big puzzles that people enjoy doing in this game is to solve that, to understand the language. I'll be super fair, super honest with that. I did not solve it, and I cannot say why without spoiling. I was disappointed in what it meant and how it was done. At the same time, it's great, but it meant for me that I was maybe not one of the people able to solve it for reasons that I cannot mention. Looking at this lovely manual, you can clearly see what it's about and you can clearly decide if it's for you or not. This is all about puzzles. All the tiny things that you see here are puzzles and secrets hidden everywhere. I cannot talk about it without spoiling, but it's so many secrets and puzzles. So basically, you get into this game, you finish it potentially after solving many puzzles, and then you realize, but wait, I didn't solve like half of it. There's got to be more. And yes, there's a huge amount of puzzles that you have left to discover. The language is one of them. The real ending and so on are incredible. You might need some help, some walkthroughs, or you might not, but it is not casual and not for the weak of heart in terms of puzzle solving. It's very complicated, very complex, and it's brilliant. I would probably give it a 9.5, almost a 10 out of 10 in terms of design, because I think it's up there with games such as The Witness and such. It is remarkable. I think it's remarkable. I was never able to finish all the puzzles in Fez by myself. I was not able to finish Tunic by myself after, I would say, 85%. I needed a few help, few hints for the, like I would say, the three last fairies or such, and the language itself. But I did the most part by myself, so I was quite proud. If you are intrigued by puzzles and if you love that, this is a game for you. So to finish, my rating for Tunic. That's a tough one. In a way, I think it's a masterpiece of its kind, because a diorama such as this game with puzzles within puzzles and secrets within secrets, and there's a huge secret of, I mean, my mind was blown away by secrets, the craftsmanship of this game. However, the way I rate games, for instance, this game is a masterpiece, buy it now. I don't think this game is for everybody. I really don't think this game is for everybody. So how can I judge a game thinking that in a way it's a masterpiece, but it's not for everybody? I think Tunic is amazing. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it an S-. I think it's a 95%, it's fantastic. And when I say you need to do this game once in your life, it's only if you care about puzzles and cryptic enigmas or cryptic, secrets. I think I'm gonna give Tunic a 95% because I think it's a fantastic game. S-, 95%, fantastic. And when I say you need to do this game once in your life, it's with a condition. If you're not into this kind of cute adventure looking game with extremely complex and convoluted and deep secrets and puzzles, it would not be an S-. It would not be a 95%. If you only care about action and you're not much into puzzles, I think this game would go down by at least 10%. It would be a great game. It would be an 85%. So this is a conditional thing. If you're not into puzzles, this is a great game, 85% that you can enjoy for sure. If you think you love puzzles, if you love the idea of having a, secret language like that you need to decipher, puzzles within puzzles within puzzles, finding hidden pages and an overarching puzzle that englobes everything, all the other puzzles of the game. This game is fantastic. It's 95%, S-. That's my rating for Tunic.